Throughout history, intelligence has been the single most powerful weapon in shaping our world. Wars aren't won by the strongest armies, but by the sharpest minds. Those who can outthink, outmaneuver, and outsmart their opponents. Empires rise not through sheer force, but through strategy, innovation, and the ability to anticipate what others can't see. The most profound legacies are created by individuals who perceive the world differently. Those who think not just one step ahead, but 10. Yet there's a critical truth many fail to recognize. Intelligence isn't some rare gift bestowed upon a select few at birth. It isn't a fixed trait that determines your ceiling in life. Intelligence is a craft, a skill you can build, refine, and sharpen until it becomes your greatest advantage in any situation. Every brilliant thinker, every master strategist, every groundbreaking innovator started somewhere. What separates these exceptional minds from the rest isn't where they began. It's how they systematically train their minds to see opportunities where others see only obstacles, to find solutions where others find excuses. This is the foundation of what I call cognitive edge conditioning, a comprehensive system designed to transform your mental capabilities from the ground up. It's more than just a temporary boost or a simple hack. It's a strategic approach to thinking that places you leagues ahead of your competition in any field. When fully implemented, this system reshapes how you approach challenges, make decisions, and navigate life itself. Imagine walking into any situation with absolute clarity, seeing patterns others miss, anticipating problems before they arise, and crafting solutions with remarkable speed and precision. Picture yourself maintaining perfect mental composure under intense pressure, while those around you succumb to stress and uncertainty. Envision having the mental flexibility to pivot instantly when circumstances change, never getting trapped in outdated thinking or rigid approaches. Cognitive edge conditioning achieves these outcomes by targeting specific mental capacities that, when developed together, create exponential rather than incremental improvement. It's designed to give you a psychological edge that makes you smarter, faster, and far more adaptable than anyone else in the room. The system works because it aligns with how our brains naturally function under optimal conditions. When your brain faces controlled challenge, what I call cognitive tension, it triggers the activation of your prefrontal cortex, the command center for higher-order thinking, decision-making, and problem-solving. For most people, pressure causes this region to shut down, leading to panic, mental freezing, or poor judgment. But through deliberate training, you can condition your brain to thrive under precisely these conditions. By consistently exposing yourself to calculated cognitive challenges, you rewire your neural pathways, making your brain faster, sharper, and more efficient over time. This isn't theoretical. Neuroscience confirms that our brains remain remarkably plastic throughout our lives, capable of forming new connections and strengthening existing ones in response to the right stimuli. What makes this approach different is its comprehensive nature. While most intellectual development methods focus on specific skills like memory or processing speed, cognitive edge conditioning develops the full spectrum of mental abilities that determine real-world performance. It's not about performing well on abstract tests. It's about developing the kind of functional intelligence that translates directly into better outcomes in your career, relationships, and personal goals. When you master this system, you don't just get smarter in the conventional sense. You become a strategic powerhouse. Your decision-making becomes razor-sharp. You start recognizing solutions that remain invisible to others. You become someone who doesn't merely survive under pressure, but thrives in it, dominating situations where others falter and crumble. This transformation extends beyond your internal experience. Others will notice the difference in your presence, your perspectives, and your results. You'll radiate a quiet confidence that commands attention and respect without effort. Your insights will carry more weight. Your solutions will implement more smoothly. Your leadership will inspire rather than demand. The journey to this level of cognitive mastery isn't easy. Nothing truly valuable ever is. It requires commitment to push beyond comfortable thinking, courage to challenge your established patterns, and consistency in applying these principles daily. But for those willing to invest in their most valuable asset, their mind, the returns are beyond calculation. In the coming sections, we'll break down the 6 core components of cognitive edge conditioning: creating cognitive tension, mastering predictive thinking, strengthening mental agility, dominating through unpredictability, harnessing emotional intelligence, and implementing the 48-hour mastermind rule. Each element builds upon the others, creating a comprehensive system that transforms you from a reactive thinker into a proactive strategist, someone who doesn't just play the game, but reshapes it entirely. The path to exceptional mental performance begins here. Your cognitive edge awaits. Comfort is your brain's worst enemy. When everything feels predictable, when tasks become routine, when challenges never push your limits, your mind grows lazy. It settles. It stagnates. And that mental stagnation might be the single greatest obstacle standing between you and your full potential. This is where cognitive tension enters the picture, the deliberate act of pushing yourself beyond comfortable thinking into territory that forces your brain into heightened states of performance. Cognitive tension isn't about random stress or anxiety. It's strategic discomfort created with purpose. Think about the last time you truly felt your mind operating at its absolute peak. Was it during a routine task you've done 1,000 times? Or was it when failure was a real possibility? When something valuable was at stake? When you needed to solve a problem under pressure? When you were competing against someone who challenged your limits? For most people, peak mental performance emerges precisely when comfort disappears. This isn't coincidence. It's neurobiology. When your brain encounters meaningful challenge, it triggers a cascade of neurological responses designed to enhance cognitive function. Your prefrontal cortex, the command center for decision-making, logical reasoning, and problem-solving, becomes highly activated. Neurotransmitters like norepinephrine and dopamine flood your neural pathways, sharpening focus and accelerating processing speed. Blood flow increases to regions responsible for creative thinking and pattern recognition. In essence, your brain shifts into a supercharged state, temporarily unlocking cognitive resources that remain dormant during comfortable situations. The key insight: this heightened state isn't reserved for random moments of inspiration or crisis. It can be deliberately induced and systematically developed. Here's how to apply cognitive tension in practical terms. First, engage with intellects that surpass your own. Find people who think differently, who possess knowledge you don't, who challenge your assumptions and expose the gaps in your reasoning. This isn't about proving yourself right. It's about deliberately placing yourself in conversations where you can't coast on existing knowledge. Debating someone smarter than you creates immediate cognitive tension. Your brain must work harder, process faster, and reach deeper to keep pace. Each exchange forces you to strengthen neural connections, establish new pathways, and elevate your thinking. The temporary discomfort of intellectual challenge becomes the catalyst for permanent cognitive growth. Second, take on high-stakes tasks where failure carries real consequences. When something meaningful is at risk, whether professional reputation, financial resources, or personal goals, your brain operates differently. The possibility of significant loss triggers heightened vigilance and analytical capacity that simply doesn't engage when the stakes are low. This doesn't mean reckless risk-taking. It means accepting challenges where success isn't guaranteed, projects slightly beyond your current capabilities, situations where you must innovate to survive, environments where exceptional performance isn't optional but essential. Third, deliberately place yourself in situations that make you uncomfortable. Public speaking terrifies you? That's precisely why you should seek those opportunities. Negotiation makes you anxious? All the more reason to put yourself in those scenarios. Learning a complex skill feels overwhelming? That initial frustration is the doorway to accelerated growth. These uncomfortable situations create cognitive tension that forces your brain to adapt. Each exposure strengthens your resilience, expands your capacity, and builds neural architecture that supports higher performance in all areas of thinking. The neurological mechanism behind this process is remarkable. Each instance of cognitive tension triggers what neuroscientists call neuroplastic adaptation. Your brain physically restructuring itself to meet the demands placed upon it. Dendrites branch out, forming new connections. Myelin sheaths thicken around neural pathways, allowing faster transmission of signals. New synapses form, enhancing your ability to process complex information. With repeated exposure to cognitive tension, these temporary adaptations become permanent enhancements. Your baseline cognitive function elevates. Your capacity to handle complex thinking expands. Your mental agility increases across all domains of performance. This is precisely why comfort is so dangerous. In the absence of challenge, these adaptations never occur. Your brain conserves energy, pruning unused neural connections and allowing critical pathways to weaken. Mental sharpness diminishes not because of age or inherent limitation, but because of insufficient demand placed on a cognitive system. Make no mistake, creating cognitive tension isn't comfortable. It means embracing situations most people avoid. It means choosing difficulty when easier paths exist. It means becoming intimate with the temporary discomfort of mental stretching. But this strategic discomfort is the price of exceptional thinking. Every time you push your brain to its limits, it gets stronger. It learns to find angles, solutions, and opportunities that others miss. This is how you train your mind to thrive under pressure while others crumble. The choice is yours: comfortable mediocrity or uncomfortable excellence. Imagine walking into a room and already knowing what's going to happen next. Not through supernatural ability, not through lucky guesswork, but through the deliberate application of predictive thinking, the ability to anticipate actions and outcomes before they unfold. This cognitive skill separates true strategists from reactive thinkers. While others are constantly surprised by events, the master of predictive thinking sees developments before they materialize. While others scramble to respond to situations, the predictive thinker has already positioned themselves advantageously. While others find themselves blindsided by change, the predictive thinker has already prepared multiple contingencies. Despite its game-changing power, predictive thinking remains misunderstood by most. Many believe it's an intuitive gift possessed by only a select few. Others dismiss it as glorified guesswork or assume it requires processing power beyond human capability. Both assumptions are fundamentally wrong. Predictive thinking is not mystical intuition or random speculation. It's a disciplined skill built upon systematic observation and analysis. It doesn't require superhuman intelligence. It requires focused attention to patterns that most people never notice. And most importantly, it can be methodically developed through consistent practice. The foundation of predictive thinking is pattern recognition, the ability to identify recurring sequences in human behavior and situational dynamics. These patterns exist everywhere, in how people respond to specific triggers, in how organizations react to market changes, and how systems evolve under various conditions. The predictive thinker doesn't just notice these patterns, they study them obsessively, building mental models that allow precise forecasting. Here's how to train this critical capacity. First, study people closely, their habits, body language, and emotional triggers. Every person has behavioral signatures that telegraph their next moves. The way someone shifts their weight when they're about to disagree. The micro-expressions that flash across their face when they're concealing information. The verbal patterns that emerge when they're preparing to negotiate or withdraw. Most people interact with others on autopilot, missing these crucial signals entirely. The predictive thinker observes deliberately, cataloging these patterns and using them to anticipate responses before they occur. They recognize when a colleague's tone indicates emerging resistance to an idea. They notice when negotiation partner's posture reveals they have more flexibility than they're admitting. They detect when someone's enthusiasm is performative rather than genuine. This isn't about manipulating others. It's about understanding human dynamics with extraordinary clarity. With practice, you'll begin developing an almost uncanny ability to anticipate how specific individuals will react in various scenarios, allowing you to prepare your approach accordingly. Second, observe patterns in how situations typically unfold. Every environment, whether professional, social, or competitive, operates according to recognizable sequences. The predictive thinker studies these sequences, identifying the triggers that set them in motion and the cascade of events that typically follow. In business meetings, certain phrases reliably predict how discussions will progress. In team dynamics, specific tensions consistently lead to predictable conflicts. In competitive environments, particular moves typically provoke characteristic responses. By studying these situational patterns, you develop the ability to see several steps ahead, recognizing how current conditions will likely evolve. This observational practice requires mental discipline, the willingness to step back from immediate engagement and study the system as a whole. While others are caught up in the moment, you're simultaneously participating and observing, building a mental database of situational patterns that becomes increasingly valuable over time. Third, constantly ask yourself, what will happen next, and how can I influence it? This question transforms passive observation into active strategic thinking. It's not enough to recognize patterns. You must also develop the capacity to project those patterns forward and identify leverage points where you can shape outcomes. Make this question a habitual part of your thinking process. Whether entering a negotiation, launching a project, or navigating a complex relationship, continually project current conditions forward, anticipating likely developments, and planning your interventions accordingly. As you practice these methods, your predictive capability will develop through distinct stages. Initially, you'll recognize patterns only in retrospect, seeing how you could have anticipated certain outcomes. With continued practice, you'll begin recognizing patterns in real time, giving you immediate strategic advantage. Eventually, you'll develop the ability to anticipate multiple steps ahead, seeing not just what will happen next, but the entire sequence of likely developments. With mastery comes an almost uncanny ability to position yourself advantageously in any situation. You'll start to see moves that others can't. Not because you're smarter, but because you've trained your mind to recognize the invisible patterns governing human behavior and situational dynamics. Soon, you'll always be one step ahead, while others wonder how you consistently anticipated what they never saw coming. Here's where most people fail. They develop a plan, commit to a strategy, and then cling to it with unwavering determination. Even as warning signs flash, conditions shift, and their approach begins crumbling before their eyes. They mistake stubbornness for discipline, refusing to adapt until failure becomes unavoidable. This rigid thinking is perhaps the most common cognitive limitation in otherwise capable minds. It's the executive who continues pushing a failing product despite changing market signals. It's the investor who doubles down on a declining asset because it contradicts their initial analysis. It's the leader who persists with outdated methods while innovative competitors race ahead. Mental agility is the antidote to this costly rigidity, the ability to pivot instantly, shifting your approach without hesitation when circumstances demand it. It's what allows you to maintain control even as conditions around you descend into chaos. When others become paralyzed by unexpected developments, the mentally agile thinker simply adapts, maintaining momentum while others stall. This capacity isn't merely about being flexible in a general sense. It's about developing specific cognitive skills that allow you to process change rapidly, abandon ineffective approaches without emotional attachment, and generate alternative strategies with remarkable speed. The mentally agile thinker doesn't just react to change. They anticipate it, prepare for it, and ultimately harness it as an advantage. Where others see disruption as a threat, they recognize opportunity. Where others experience anxiety in the face of uncertainty, they feel exhilarated by the challenge of adaptation. Here's how to build this critical capacity. First, deliberately engage with tasks that have shifting rules and parameters. Most training environments maintain consistent conditions, which fails to develop adaptability. To build mental agility, seek out challenges where the landscape changes mid-process. Try solving puzzles that introduce new rules as you progress. Work on projects where client requirements evolve throughout development. Participate in games or competitions where conditions change unexpectedly. These experiences train your brain to process and integrate new information without becoming disoriented or frustrated. With practice, you'll develop the ability to absorb changing parameters without the cognitive friction most people experience. You'll learn to release assumptions quickly, pivot your approach seamlessly, and maintain performance despite shifting conditions. Second, practice arguing from opposing perspectives. Not just understanding alternative viewpoints, but actively advocating for positions contrary to your natural inclinations. This practice develops remarkable cognitive dexterity. Choose topics where you hold strong opinions, then force yourself to construct the strongest possible case for the opposite position. Research the most compelling evidence supporting the contrary view. Identify the weakest aspects of your preferred position. Engage in formal debates where you must represent perspectives you personally disagree with. This practice accomplishes something profound. It trains your brain to see all angles of any situation simultaneously. You develop the ability to perceive multiple valid interpretations of the same information, a cognitive skill that proves invaluable when conditions change and previous assumptions no longer apply. Third, deliberately embrace change in your daily life. Most people instinctively create routines that minimize uncertainty and variability. While routines have their place, excessive predictability dulls cognitive adaptability. The mentally agile thinker regularly disrupts their own patterns. Take different routes to familiar destinations. Rearrange your workspace periodically. Try solving routine problems using unfamiliar methods. Expose yourself to perspectives that challenge your worldview. Engage with activities that force you to use different cognitive skills than your profession typically demands. These seemingly minor disruptions serve a crucial purpose. They prevent your neural pathways from becoming rigidly fixed. Each unexpected adjustment, however small, reinforces your brain's capacity to reconfigure itself in response to changing conditions. When you train for mental agility through these methods, you develop a remarkable competitive advantage. While others freeze when confronted with unexpected developments, you'll pivot effortlessly. While others cling desperately to failing approaches, you'll smoothly transition to more effective strategies. While others become overwhelmed by complexity and change, you'll maintain clear thinking and decisive action. You'll move seamlessly from Plan A to Plan B to Plan C, never losing momentum or clarity. Your mind becomes like water, flowing around obstacles rather than crashing against them, adapting to any container rather than maintaining a rigid shape. In a world of constant disruption and accelerating change, mental agility isn't just an advantage, it's a survival requirement. Those who cannot adapt quickly become irrelevant. Those who can pivot instantly become unstoppable. The extraordinary effectiveness of cognitive edge conditioning isn't based on motivational theory or business philosophy. It's grounded in neurological science, the biology of how your brain functions under pressure and how it adapts to strategic challenges. When your brain encounters stress, it triggers a cascade of neurobiological responses. For most people, this stress response becomes overwhelming. Their prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for executive function, logical reasoning, and strategic thinking, becomes impaired. Blood flow redirects to more primitive brain regions associated with fight-or-flight responses. Their thinking becomes narrow, rigid, and reactive rather than expansive and strategic. This is why most people make poor decisions under pressure. This is why they panic, freeze, or resort to outdated patterns when facing complex challenges. This is why their performance deteriorates precisely when optimal functioning is most crucial. But here's the revolutionary insight that forms the foundation of cognitive edge conditioning. This stress response can be systematically reconfigured through controlled exposure and deliberate training. When you regularly expose yourself to calibrated cognitive challenges, what I call cognitive tension, something remarkable happens. Your brain begins adapting at the neurobiological level. Instead of shutting down your prefrontal cortex during stress, your brain learns to keep it fully engaged and operational. Rather than experiencing cognitive narrowing under pressure, you maintain expansive awareness and strategic thinking. Neuroscientists call this process stress inoculation, the brain's ability to build resistance to the negative effects of pressure through repeated exposure under controlled conditions. It's analogous to how a vaccine works, introducing small amounts of a pathogen to build immunity against more severe exposure. Through cognitive edge conditioning, you're essentially vaccinating your brain against the performance-degrading effects of pressure, building neural resilience that allows your cognitive functions to remain optimal even in high-stakes situations. This neurological adaptation occurs through several interconnected mechanisms. First, repeated exposure to controlled stress teaches your brain to maintain appropriate levels of key neurotransmitters during challenging situations. Your neurochemical balance shifts, with stress hormones like cortisol regulated at levels that enhance rather than impair cognitive function, while performance-boosting chemicals like dopamine and norepinephrine flow in optimal proportions. Second, neural pathways associated with strategic thinking and problem-solving become strengthened through a process called myelination. The myelin sheaths surrounding these neural connections thicken, allowing electrical signals to travel faster and more efficiently, literally increasing the speed and power of your thinking under pressure. Third, your brain develops enhanced connectivity between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, the brain region associated with emotional responses. This improved connection allows your rational thinking centers to better regulate emotional reactions, maintaining clear thinking even when stakes are high. Fourth, your neural architecture becomes more adaptable through increased production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, a protein that stimulates the growth of new neurons and strengthens existing ones. This accelerates your brain's ability to form new neural pathways, directly enhancing your capacity for mental agility and adaptive thinking. Perhaps most remarkably, research in neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections, shows that these changes aren't temporary. Through consistent application of cognitive edge conditioning principles, these adaptations become permanent enhancements to your cognitive architecture. Your brain literally rewires itself to become faster, sharper, and more efficient. What begins as a deliberate practice eventually becomes your default operating state, a heightened level of cognitive performance that feels natural and effortless. The cumulative outcomes of these neurological adaptations are profound. Your decision-making becomes razor-sharp, even under intense pressure. Where others become paralyzed by complexity or uncertainty, you maintain clear thinking and decisive action. Your strategic awareness expands dramatically. You begin recognizing patterns, opportunities, and potential pitfalls that remain invisible to others, not because you're inherently more intelligent, but because your neural architecture has been optimized for strategic perception. Your cognitive processing speed increases. You analyze situations faster, generate solutions more quickly, and implement decisions with greater efficiency, giving you a critical time advantage in competitive environments. Your mental stamina extends significantly. While others experience cognitive fatigue during prolonged challenges, your thinking remains clear and focused, allowing you to outlast competitors in extended strategic engagements. In essence, cognitive edge conditioning transforms you from someone who merely survives under pressure into someone who thrives in it, a person who operates with precision and clarity even in the most chaotic environments. You become capable of outthinking, outmaneuvering, and outlasting anyone standing in your way. When you master this system, the transformation isn't just internal, it becomes visible to others. You begin radiating a dangerous, quiet confidence that commands attention and respect. People sense your presence before you even speak. Your words carry weight that others don't. Your insights penetrate to the heart of matters while others circle the periphery. This isn't about becoming marginally better. It's about becoming categorically different, operating on a level that most people can't comprehend, much less achieve. Predictability is the enemy of power. The moment others can anticipate your next move, they gain the upper hand. They adapt. They counter. They outmaneuver you. This fundamental truth applies across every domain: business, negotiation, competition, leadership, even personal relationships. When your patterns become transparent, your effectiveness diminishes proportionally. This is where most people falter. They become too predictable, too easy to read. They develop recognizable methods and repetitive approaches. They telegraph their intentions through unconscious habits and behavioral signatures. They become, in essence, strategically vulnerable. To truly dominate, you must cultivate the art of unpredictability, a quality that keeps others perpetually off balance, unable to anticipate your next move or counter your strategy effectively. But unpredictability must be understood correctly. It doesn't mean acting randomly or without purpose. Random behavior produces random results, the opposite of strategic thinking. True unpredictability operates from a foundation of deliberate intention and calculated precision. Strategic unpredictability means mastering the skill of misdirection, keeping your true intentions hidden while leading others to believe they understand your game. It means controlling the information you reveal and concealing your actual strategy beneath layers of strategic ambiguity. It means becoming the chess player who thinks 10 moves ahead while appearing to focus on the immediate exchange. When you master this quality, the element of surprise becomes your most powerful weapon. Confusion becomes your ally. While others waste energy trying to predict your next move, you maintain complete control, always staying several steps ahead of their understanding. Here's how to train strategic unpredictability. First, defy expectations strategically. Most people develop recognizable patterns in how they approach challenges, negotiations, or competitive situations. These patterns become their strategic signature, and ultimately, their vulnerability. The unpredictable strategist deliberately breaks these patterns at critical moments. Make decisions that appear unexpected but align perfectly with your long-term goals. Take calculated risks that others wouldn't anticipate based on your established patterns. Switch your approach precisely when consistency is expected. The key is ensuring these apparent deviations actually advance your true objectives rather than derailing them. For instance, if you're known for aggressive negotiation, occasionally employ conciliatory tactics. Not because you've abandoned your objective, but because the shift creates momentary confusion that serves your larger strategy. If you typically launch products with extensive pre-marketing, occasionally release with no warning, not randomly, but when the surprise itself becomes a strategic advantage. Second, change your patterns frequently. Human psychology naturally seeks pattern recognition. It's how we make sense of complexity. By regularly disrupting your patterns, you prevent others from developing a reliable model of your behavior. Break routines that people might use to predict your actions. Vary your methods of communication, decision-making processes, problem-solving approaches, and timing. Keep others guessing by introducing enough variability that no clear pattern emerges, while maintaining internal consistency in your actual strategic objectives. Third, conceal your true intentions. Most people reveal far more about their objectives than strategic wisdom permits. They discuss plans openly, telegraph their priorities, and expose their thinking process unnecessarily. The unpredictable strategist operates with greater discipline. Never reveal your full plan to anyone. Share just enough to satisfy curiosity and maintain necessary coordination, but leave the crucial parts of your strategy hidden. Compartmentalize information so that no single person other than you understands the entire picture. Remember, a partially revealed plan is often more misleading than silence. Creating the illusion of transparency while preserving your true strategic flexibility. Fourth, create false trails. Sometimes letting others think they've figured you out works to your advantage. By allowing people to believe they understand your strategy when they've actually detected only what you've allowed them to see, you create powerful opportunities for strategic surprise. Lead them down paths that appear to reveal your thinking while you operate in the shadows, executing your real moves. Drop breadcrumbs that suggest one direction while moving in another. When others believe they've decoded your pattern, they stop looking deeper, precisely when you implement your actual strategy. The result of mastering strategic unpredictability is profound. You become a person no one can pin down. Your unpredictability forces others to stay perpetually on edge, wasting their energy trying to anticipate your next move. Meanwhile, you maintain complete control, always staying one step or several steps ahead. In business, competitors can't effectively counter what they can't predict. In negotiation, opponents can't develop reliable countermeasures against your approach. In leadership, those who might undermine you can't position themselves effectively against your strategy. In every domain, unpredictability becomes a force multiplier for your effectiveness. Master this quality, and watch as others become increasingly reactive to your moves, while you remain the calm center of strategic control, the player who dictates the game rather than merely participating in it. While logical reasoning can win arguments and solve problems, it's emotional intelligence that wins people. And people, ultimately, determine success or failure in nearly every human endeavor. Emotional intelligence is the key to understanding, influencing, and ultimately directing others in any situation. It enables you to read the room with uncanny accuracy, gauge hidden intentions beneath surface behaviors, and use emotions, both theirs and yours, to strategic advantage. If logic is the sword, emotional intelligence is the hand that wields it. It allows you to adapt seamlessly to the emotions of others, inspire trust when beneficial, diffuse conflict when necessary, and, when the situation demands, subtly manipulate circumstances to achieve your objectives. This capacity doesn't just complement cognitive skills, it multiplies their effectiveness. The strategist with high emotional intelligence doesn't just develop superior plans. They implement them with minimal resistance and maximum support. They don't just identify optimal solutions. They present them in ways that resonate deeply with decision-makers. They don't just recognize opportunities. They build the interpersonal dynamics that transform opportunities into realities. This skill doesn't just make you smarter. It makes you truly powerful. It transforms intelligence from an abstract quality into applied influence that shapes real-world outcomes. Here's how to develop this critical capacity. First, learn to decode subtle cues. Human communication extends far beyond words. Micro-expressions, fleeting facial movements lasting fractions of seconds, often reveal emotions that contradict verbal statements. Voice tonality carries emotional information that words alone cannot convey. Body language, posture, gestures, movements, broadcast intentions and reactions that most people never consciously register. Train yourself to recognize these subtle signals by studying them systematically. Watch interactions with analytical focus, noting the disconnects between what people say and what their nonverbal communication reveals. Learn the physical signatures of specific emotions, the slight narrowing of eyes that indicates skepticism, the micro-expressions of contempt that flash across a face during disagreement, the postural shifts that signal discomfort with a proposal. The more you train yourself to notice these subtle cues, the better you'll understand people's true feelings and intentions, often before they've fully articulated them, even to themselves. This awareness gives you tremendous advantage in any interaction, allowing you to address unspoken concerns, adapt to emotional undercurrents, and position your ideas for maximum resonance. Second, master active listening. Most people listen with the intent to reply, formulating their response while others are still speaking, focusing on their own perspective rather than genuinely absorbing what's being communicated. This self-focused approach misses crucial information and destroys the interpersonal connection that drives influence. True active listening means temporarily suspending your own perspective to fully enter another person's reality. It requires paying complete attention not just to words, but to the emotions driving those words. It means noticing what's left unsaid, the hesitations, the avoided topics, the areas of emphasis that reveal underlying priorities and concerns. When you listen at this level, you gather intelligence that others miss entirely. You understand not just positions, but motivations. You identify the emotional triggers that drive decisions. You recognize the underlying needs that even the speaker may not fully acknowledge. This deep understanding allows you to respond in ways that resonate profoundly, making people feel truly heard and valued. This connection builds the trust and receptivity that transforms mere communication into genuine influence. Third, control your own emotions. Emotional intelligence begins with self-awareness, recognizing your triggers, understanding your patterns, and managing your feelings instead of being controlled by them. This self-mastery is the foundation that makes all other aspects of emotional intelligence possible. Learn to recognize your emotional reactions before they fully manifest. Identify the physical sensations that precede strong feelings, the tightening in your chest before anger, the flutter in your stomach before anxiety. This awareness creates a crucial space between stimulus and response, allowing you to choose your reaction rather than being driven by unconscious patterns. Once you master your own emotions, you can use them as strategic tools, projecting confidence when it serves your purpose, displaying calm during crisis to steady others, or even tactically revealing controlled anger when the situation demands intensity. Your emotional expressions become choices rather than compulsions, deployed precisely for maximum effect. The strategic advantage of emotional intelligence is immeasurable. When you understand how people think and feel, often better than they understand themselves, you can anticipate their reactions with remarkable accuracy. You can guide their decisions through subtle framing that aligns with their emotional needs. You can steer them toward outcomes that serve your purpose while making them feel the choice was entirely their own. You become the person who can calm a storm with a few well-chosen words, rally demoralized teams with authentic inspiration, or subtly influence resistant stakeholders to embrace your vision, all without them recognizing the deliberate nature of your approach. In essence, with emotional intelligence, you don't just understand people. You shape how they react to you and your ideas. You can inspire trust and loyalty or instill caution. You can make people feel they're winning when in reality, they're following your strategic plan. You control the emotional climate of any interaction, and through that, its outcome. When you control the emotions in a room, you control the room itself. When you control people's feelings, you control their actions. And when you control their actions, you control the outcome. After every victory or failure, step back. This final principle may seem deceptively simple, yet it represents perhaps the most powerful cognitive edge available to the strategic thinker. The key to mastering your mind lies not just in what you do during critical moments, but in what you do after the moment has passed. Whether you've achieved a significant win or faced a serious setback, the real growth happens in reflection. Your brain needs time and space to process what occurred, analyze the patterns, and uncover insights you may have missed in the heat of the moment. This isn't about procrastination or indecision. It's about strategic patience. By pausing and allowing your subconscious mind to work, you enable it to connect dots that conscious analysis might miss, identify subtle patterns that explain success or failure, and refine your understanding in ways that immediate reaction cannot achieve. I call this the 48-hour mastermind rule. This deliberate period of strategic reflection transforms raw experiences into refined wisdom and ensures your next move is sharper, stronger, and more precisely calibrated than would otherwise be possible. Here's how to apply this powerful principle. First, sleep on major decisions before finalizing them. When facing a significant choice or developing an important strategy, Give yourself a minimum of 48 hours between development and implementation. This delay isn't dead time. It's when your subconscious mind performs its most valuable work. During sleep and periods of relative mental rest, your brain continues processing information at a deep level. It identifies connections between seemingly unrelated factors. It spots potential problems your conscious mind overlooked. It generates creative solutions that wouldn't emerge during focus analysis. The neurological basis for this process is fascinating. During sleep, your hippocampus replays the day's experiences, transferring information to neocortex for long-term storage and integration. This consolidation process doesn't just store memories, it reorganizes them, extracting patterns and insights that weren't apparent during initial encoding. When you allow this natural process to unfold before finalizing decisions, you harness your brain's full processing power rather than limiting yourself to conscious analysis alone. Often, the best ideas surface when you least expect them, during morning showers, casual walks, or while focusing on unrelated tasks, precisely because your unconscious mind has been working beneath the surface. Second, conduct structured reflection on wins and losses. After any significant event, whether success or failure, dedicate specific time to reflective analysis. What worked? What didn't? What could have been done differently? What patterns can be identified across similar situations? This reflection shouldn't be casual or haphazard. Approach it with the same discipline and focus you'd apply to any critical task. Document your insights. Identify specific lessons that can be applied to future situations. Look for both tactical improvements in execution and strategic adjustments to your overall approach. The neurological basis for this practice involves strengthening neural connections associated with successful patterns while reconfiguring those linked to suboptimal outcomes. Each structured reflection literally rewires your brain, creating stronger pathways for effective thinking and action while weakening those that led to mistakes or missed opportunities. Third, brainstorm alternatives during this 48-hour window. Even when your initial approach succeeded, consider other paths that might have achieved the same or better results. This practice builds mental flexibility and expands your strategic repertoire for future challenges. Ask yourself, what other approaches might have worked? What would the outcome have been if key variables had been different? How might opponents or competitors have responded to alternative strategies? This exercise prevents the complacency that often follows success and ensures your thinking remains adaptable rather than rigid. Neurologically, this practice strengthens your brain's capacity for divergent thinking, the ability to generate multiple potential solutions rather than fixating on a single approach. It expands your cognitive flexibility by creating neural pathways for alternative strategies, even when they weren't ultimately implemented. The power of this strategic reflection is transformative. When you consistently practice the 48-hour mastermind rule, you move beyond reactive thinking into a realm of strategic clarity most never achieve. You stop rushing into decisions based on immediate emotional responses or incomplete analysis. Instead, you operate from a place of comprehensive understanding and foresight. Over time, this habit exponentially sharpens your ability to predict outcomes, avoid preventable mistakes, and execute with flawless precision. It creates a virtuous cycle where each experience, positive or negative, becomes fuel for continuous improvement rather than a one-time event. The neurological explanation for why this works is compelling. When you step back after significant events, your brain shifts into a mode of deep processing known as the default mode network. This neural configuration allows for more holistic thinking, connecting information across diverse domains of knowledge and experience. During this mode, your subconscious mind integrates emotional data with logical analysis, weighs multiple variables simultaneously, and generates insights that narrow, focused thinking simply cannot produce. It's the neurological equivalent of stepping back to see the entire forest rather than focusing on individual trees. This process is the secret weapon of history's greatest innovators, strategists, and leaders. It's how they consistently outperform their competition, seeing connections and opportunities others missed. It's how they transformed experience into wisdom, while others merely accumulated experiences without extracting their full value. By mastering the 48-hour mastermind rule, you develop a profound competitive advantage. You no longer just react to the moment. You dominate it, armed with the insights and clarity that only come from disciplined reflection. Pause, reflect, refine, then act, and watch as every move becomes more unstoppable than the last. When you apply these 6 steps, cognitive tension, predictive thinking, mental agility, strategic unpredictability, emotional intelligence, and the 48-hour mastermind rule, you become something rare, something powerful. You're no longer reactive. You don't just survive challenges, you thrive in them. You don't follow the rules, you write them. People look at you differently. They sense your presence before you even speak. You radiate a quiet confidence that commands attention and respect without effort. The transformation isn't just internal. It becomes visible in everything you do. Your decisions carry unusual weight. Your insights penetrate to the core of complex situations. Your strategies unfold with a precision that seems almost supernatural to those who haven't mastered these principles. Now it's time to stop watching and start doing. Your brain is the most powerful weapon you possess, but only if you sharpen it systematically and deliberately. The difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary isn't talent or luck. It's action. It's the willingness to implement these principles when others merely contemplate them. It's the commitment to push beyond comfortable thinking into the realm where true cognitive mastery emerges. So here's your challenge. Choose one step from this system, whether it's cognitive tension, predictive thinking, or any other principle we've covered. Commit to mastering it over the next 7 days. Push yourself to the edge. Step into discomfort. Train your mind to see opportunities where others see only obstacles. Then return and share what you've learned. What surprised you? How did your perception shift? What became possible that wasn't before? The world rewards those who rise above mediocrity, who perfect their craft, who dominate their domain with precision and purpose. It's time to claim your place among them. What separates legendary strategists from talented amateurs isn't just knowledge, it's embodiment. When these cognitive principles become more than techniques you apply and transform into how you naturally operate, something extraordinary happens. This isn't about superficial change. This is about evolutionary advancement in how your mind functions. The cumulative effect of these practices creates a cognitive synergy where each element amplifies the others. Predictive thinking enhances your emotional intelligence. Mental agility reinforces your strategic unpredictability. Cognitive tension sharpens your decision-making during reflection periods. The world starts responding to you differently. Opportunities appear where others see roadblocks. Solutions emerge when others perceive only problems. The very landscape of possibility expands around you as your perception shifts from tactical to strategic, from reactive to creative. Notice how leaders who master these principles seem to operate with a different rulebook. They aren't merely playing the game better. They're engaged in an entirely different game. While others compete within established parameters, these individuals redefine those parameters themselves. They don't just seize opportunities, they engineer the conditions that create opportunities. This elevated perspective transforms challenges from threats into strategic platforms. The unexpected developments that derail others become inflection points you leverage. Market shifts that bankrupt competitors become catalysts for your advancement. The chaotic situations that overwhelm ordinary thinkers become the very environments where your cognitive edge delivers its greatest advantage. Consider how differently you'll navigate critical moments after mastering these principles. When facing high-stakes negotiations, you'll perceive underlying motivations others miss entirely. When market conditions suddenly change, you'll adapt seamlessly while competitors struggle with outdated approaches. When complex problems emerge, You'll identify elegant solutions hidden beneath surface complications. Your presence itself becomes a strategic asset. Without speaking, you communicate competence. Without trying, you command respect. Your composure during crisis, clarity during confusion, and confidence during uncertainty become signature attributes that define your professional identity. This transformation isn't theoretical. It's practical, measurable, and achievable through deliberate practice. The techniques you've learned aren't philosophical concepts for contemplation. They're cognitive tools for implementation. The question isn't whether these principles work. The evidence spans centuries of strategic mastery across diverse domains. The question is whether you'll join those who actually apply them. So here's your pathway forward. Choose your entry point. Select whichever principle resonates most strongly with your current situation and immediate objectives. This isn't about attempting complete transformation overnight. It's about initiating the process of systematic growth through focused application. Treat the next week as a cognitive laboratory. Document your starting point. Implement your chosen principle deliberately and consistently. Note the changes in your perception, decision-making, and results. Be specific in tracking what shifts, what challenges emerge, and what becomes possible that wasn't before. This experimental approach transforms abstract concepts into personal experience. It moves these principles from intellectual understanding to practical capability. It begins the neural rewiring that eventually makes extraordinary thinking your default state rather than your conscious effort. The greatest barrier to transformation isn't external limitation, but internal hesitation. The difference between those who merely consume information and those who embody it is implementation. Knowledge without application remains potential without reality. Your cognitive evolution begins with a single deliberate practice. What will you choose? How will you begin? The extraordinary isn't some distant destination. It's the immediate possibility waiting on the other side of committed action. Take that first step. The world awaits what you'll become.